I had liked my childhood friend for countless years, but he fell in love with my roommate at first sight. He said impatiently, "Calliope, don't get in the way of me pursuing her, after I started dating someone else." He humbled himself before me, as if he had shrunk into the dust. Trembling, he raised a finger and stammered, "Calliope, I've come back to you. Please, wait for me one more time. Just one last time, okay?" Chapter 1, It was just me. Jack sent me a photo. It was a picture from my WeChat post. He asked who the girl beside me was. It was Margarita, my roommate. Jack hadn't contacted me on his own for a long time. I should have replied quickly, but somehow, I just couldn't bring myself to send the message. Jack and I were neighbors. We grew up together, childhood sweethearts. I had liked Jack ever since I was a kid. He knew it. I knew it. And so did all our mutual friends. Likewise, the fact that Jack didn't like me, he knew. I knew. And so did everyone else. Jack seemed impatient and replied with just a question mark. My fingers moved slightly as I typed. "Why are you asking?" "Just tell me. She's my roommate." He didn't reply, but 2 hours later, he crossed half the city and showed up outside my dorm building. Jack had always been a man of action, and his actions made it clear. He had fallen for Margarita. Love at first sight. Jack was 3 years older than me when I entered college. He started a business with some college friends. By my junior year, his startup had succeeded. He was incredibly busy, so much so that I only dared to call him once every 3 days. Even then, he often wouldn't pick up, even though we were in the same city. The reason? Busy. He often said, "Calliope, I only see you as a little sister." His tone and eyes carried a subtle impatience, a world of difference compared to how he treated his real sister. One time, I quietly defended myself. "I didn't say anything, but your eyes are always on me." Jack replied coolly, "I'm not blind." That day, Jack posted a picture on his WeChat feed. It was a man with chewing gum stuck to the bottom of his shoe, no matter how he shook it. It wouldn't come off. I slowly faded out of his life. Didn't dare look at him, much less appear in front of him. But now, he came on his own. He said to me, "Ask your roommate to come down. I'll treat you both to dinner." Jack asked what Margarita liked to eat. Margarita said she liked hot pot. Jack smiled and said, "What a coincidence. I like hot pot too." But Jack didn't like hot pot. One year, on my birthday, Jack was home for summer break from college. I called him countless times, begging him to come celebrate with me. He came, stood at the doorway with an annoyed expression. "I'm here. Happy now?" Not a word more. He wouldn't even step inside. I chased after him and asked why he wouldn't come in. He said, "Hot pot is the food I hate the most." During dinner, I looked across the rising steam at Jack's gentle, smiling face. His gaze was fixed on the person next to me, Margarita. That same usual indifference, that slight impatience, now replaced with focused gentleness. Turns out, Jack didn't hate hot pot. He just didn't want to eat it with me. 3 days later, Margarita shyly told me, "Jack and I made it official. Congratulations." She asked sweetly, "He's so handsome. Do you think he's serious about me?" I looked at Margarita. She was the campus beauty of our department, stunning and confident, the exact type Jack had casually mentioned he liked in the past. Then I looked at myself in the mirror. Pale skin, innocent looking, nothing remotely close to stunning or confident. If he says he likes you, then he must mean it. Jack always had high standards. He'd rather have nothing than settle. That's why, even after all these years of people teasing us, he never once considered giving us a try. He stayed single until Margarita came along like a gift from the heavens. And he looked at her with burning, focused eyes. Jack was serious. He used to be busy. Now, it was like he had all the time in the world. Our dorm was constantly filled with Margarita's silvery laughter. She playfully complained to me, "You liar. You told me he was super busy, that I'd have to call him at least 3 times to get through, but he picks up instantly. My phone's battery is dying just from chatting with him." I had nothing to say, because I had just realized it too. His busy was only for me. Chapter 2, Warning. Margarita had a lively and outgoing personality. When she was in a relationship, she would talk about it openly, sharing the sweet moments between her and her boyfriend with others. I was the matchmaker between her and Jack, which also made me her main confidant. Every time Margarita came back from a date with Jack, she would lean over and gush about how gentle he was. She'd say Jack offered to carry her on hikes, that he bent down to tie her shoelaces, that when she posted on WeChat about craving milk tea from East City, Jack drove all the way from West City to buy it and bring it to her. I was dazed, because that wasn't the Jack I remembered. The Jack I knew was proud, aloof, like someone too noble to ever stoop down for anyone. Margarita said. I even told him how I always brag about our relationship in front of you. Then she suddenly leaned in and looked at me. Jack is so great, why didn't you keep him for yourself instead of introducing him to me? There was a hint of scrutiny in her eyes. Just for a second, I panicked. After that hot pot dinner Jack had with me and Margarita, he asked to talk to me alone. Don't let Margarita find out that you like me. My throat was dry. Why? I don't want you to become an obstacle in my pursuit of Margarita. I looked up at him. Can't you go after someone else? My voice was low and pleading. I really did love him. I had loved him for 10 whole years. I don't know when it started, but I'd long since gotten used to following behind Jack, watching his back, walking in his footsteps. He got into a university in the city, so I followed him here. He studied computer science, so I chose computer science too. I knew he didn't like me. I knew that one day he'd fall in love, start dating, get married, have kids. But could it be later? Or somewhere far away? Just not right in front of me, not where I had to watch it happen. Jack sounded irritated. No. I said nothing and just looked at him. He seemed to sigh, hesitated for a moment, then raised his hand and rubbed my head. His voice was low and pleasant. I've never liked anyone this much before. Calliope, please cooperate, okay? Don't be an obstacle between me and Margarita. The word please sounded like a plea, but I couldn't hear any sincerity in it. It was like he already knew I wouldn't say no. With me, Jack had always been confident he'd win, and he was right. Because of Jack's pleas, I played along, every day. I smiled as I listened to Margarita talk about how good Jack was to her. It felt like a hole had been ripped open in my chest. My nails dug into my palms, but I still smiled and cooperated. I didn't dare reveal a trace of jealousy, even though I was sure that even if Margarita found out I liked Jack, she wouldn't care. She'd probably just say frankly, sorry, but Jack likes me. Even so, because Jack wouldn't be happy. Faced with Margarita's scrutiny just now, I forced my laughter to be extra loud. I introduced you too because I don't like him. Margarita, really? Really? She affectionately pinched my nose and said with a meaningful tone, good. Otherwise, I'd feel like a terrible person showing off my relationship in front of you. I smiled. How could you be a terrible person? You're the one Jack likes. You're the lucky one. Since you don't like him, would you mind joining Jack and me on future dates? You're our matchmaker. After all, I couldn't smile anymore. I murmured, I don't mind. I went from just listening to her gush about their relationship, to participating, to witnessing it with my own eyes. Jack was just as gentle as Margarita said. No, he was even more so. At Hot Pot, he tied an apron around Margarita himself. When crossing the street, he held her hand and slowed down to match her pace. Then he took her to a flower shop and bought her favorite lilies. Margarita looked up at him with a bright smile. How did you know lilies are my favorite? Because I love lilies too. Our tastes are exactly the same. I watched silently. No, Jack didn't like lilies. The year I took the college entrance exam at 18, I brought a bouquet of lilies from my hometown to the city to find Jack. I wanted to say, I got into your university. I really like you. Will you give me a chance? Jack saw the flowers in my arms and seemed to know what I was about to say. He slapped the flowers out of my hands and cut off my confession. Frowning, he said, why'd you buy those? Lilies are weak, fragile, and pretentious. Then he turned around and left, stuffing my unsaid confession back down my throat. Even now, I still haven't been able to say the words aloud. That night, after walking Margarita back to the dorm, Jack sent me a message telling me to come down. He warned me, when I'm on a date with Margarita, don't follow us again. Chapter 3. I said, it wasn't me who insisted on coming along. Margarita asked me to. Jack snapped. Couldn't you just say no? Jack wasn't someone who lost his temper easily, at least not in all the years we'd grown up together. He could be impatient, displeased even, but he had never truly gotten angry at me. This was the first time. I thought for a moment. Margarita found out I like you. It was the first time Jack got mad at me, and it was also the first time I admitted to Jack that I liked him. I had imagined this confession countless times, how I would say that word like. I thought it would be romantic, even though Jack didn't care. I really liked preparing little surprises for him. Paper airplanes with smiley faces, flown from his window to land on his desk. On confession day, I folded 520 tiny paper hearts and secretly stuffed them into his blanket. Every year for Jack's birthday, besides giving him a gift, I would also draw him a picture. In every drawing, there was him and a tiny version of me behind him, gazing at his back. My feelings had never been loud or spoken, but in silence, I had said them thousands of times. I looked intently at Jack, waiting for his reaction to the first spoken like I had ever given him. Jack looked at me, raised his hand, and tapped me lightly on the forehead, just like when we were kids. When I followed behind him giggling and he'd playfully tap me, saying, "Go play somewhere else." But this time, his eyes were irritated. "How can you be so stupid? You actually let her find out." I didn't know what to say. I just knew my heart hurt so badly. It felt like it might stop beating. Jack continued, "If you mess up things between me and her, you'll see what I'll do to you." Then he turned and strode away. I went back too. That night, lying in bed, I heard the voice message Jack sent to Margarita. His voice was low, soft, smiling, filled with tenderness and affection. "Be good. Good night." It was the kind of tenderness and affection I had never received. In that moment, I realized clearly, I regretted everything. I regretted being afraid Jack would hate me, and so introduced him to Margarita. I regretted posting that picture of me and Margarita on WeChat. I even regretted falling for him. Margarita climbed onto my bed, her tone cheerful. "Your childhood friends came to visit the city. Jack's taking me to meet them tomorrow. You should come with us." I didn't respond, just turned my back and pretended to sleep. The next day, Jack called, "Come with Margarita at noon." Still so bossy, like he knew that if he said it, I wouldn't say no. And I couldn't say no, so I followed behind a beautifully dressed Margarita to go meet Jack's childhood friends. They were our mutual childhood friends. As soon as they saw me, they jokingly called out, "Hey Jack." "Hey sister-in-law." Margarita's face turned pale in an instant. Jack, holding Margarita's hand, let out a soft "TSK. What nonsense are you guys talking about? This is your real sister-in-law." Then he pulled Margarita into his arms and kissed her on the forehead. I stood frozen, silently watching the couple's sweet embrace. Just like the others in the room, I understood why Jack had asked me to come. Because he knew how deeply I loved him, no matter how I tried to hide it. It was too obvious, and it might affect his relationship with Margarita. So he brought Margarita here and, in front of everyone, exposed the fact that I liked him, and made it equally clear that he didn't like me. To give Margarita a sense of security, and in his own way, to make me give up for good. As I faced the familiar friends who had known for years about my silent love for Jack, their expressions full of either sympathy or pity, I suddenly realized that last shred of hope in my heart had been completely destroyed. But strangely, what I felt was an unprecedented sense of peace. I gave a small smile, turned around to leave, but someone grabbed my wrist. His touch was warm, and the chest I was pulled toward carried a faint scent of books and ink. I looked up and saw Francis. Francis pulled me behind him, still smiling, his gaze sweeping across everyone in the room before settling on Jack. "It's not nonsense. Calliope really is your sister-in-law, because I'm pursuing her." Chapter 4. Francis led me out of the private room. He let go of my hand and leaned against the hallway wall, staring at me for a while. Then he bent down so we were eye level and softly called my name, "Calliope." His eyes were gentle, and his voice even gentler. I couldn't help but hum a quiet mem. Do you know why I said that back there? My dad was a math teacher, but he didn't teach my class, he taught Francis's. 3 years in middle school, 3 years in high school. The name that came up most often at home wasn't Calliope, it was Francis. The model child my parents always talked about was also Francis. They both liked him a lot. always praising him, handsome, tall, smart, good grades, polite, and well-mannered. But he was never polite to me. He liked to tug on my braids, snatch my backpack after school and make me chase him. And he would even unfold the paper hearts I had made for Jack and turn them into little origami frogs. Then he'd say, "Calliope's a total idiot, crushing on someone who doesn't like her." So embarrassing. Hearing Francis ask me that question now, I thought for a moment. "Because you saw how pathetic I looked and thought I was making a fool of myself. So you helped me save face." "Thanks." Francis interrupted me. "No." I froze and looked up at him. His eyes were slightly red. He bent over, resting his hands on his knees, and looked straight at me. "Jack's in a relationship now, Calliope. Don't wait for him anymore." All these years of one-sided chasing after Jack, I had wavered more than once, but I had always held on. Now, though, I felt calm inside. I didn't know what to say to Francis, especially since he had bent down just to look me in the eye. In my mind, Francis had always seemed even more proud than Jack. Tall and handsome, always brushing off the hordes of girls who confessed to him with a lazy tone and a straight back. "I'm here to focus on studying." I pursed my lips, just about to speak, when the door beside us opened. I looked over, and saw Jack standing there, half his body showing through the doorframe. He was staring at me, eyes dark and unreadable. Then Margarita appeared and linked her arm through his. Before I could react, Francis pulled me behind him again. He straightened up from where he'd bent, shielding me with his body. Something quietly stirred in my heart. After Jack and Margarita went back into the room, I tugged at Francis's sleeve. "You hungry?" "Francis, yeah." He took me to a hot pot place I often went to alone. Then he led me to my usual seat. He prepared my usual sesame oil dipping sauce. Looking at everything in front of me, I grew suspicious. "How did you know to bring me here? Every time you're upset, you come here for hot pot alone, and after eating, your mood gets better." Francis wiped the chopsticks and handed them to me. "I'll wait outside." I grabbed the sleeve he was about to pull away. "How do you know that?" There was a hint of bitterness in his eyes. "Calliope, you're such an idiot." Back then, when Francis called me an idiot, I'd always talk back. "No, you're the idiot." But his tone now wasn't teasing. It carried a faint sadness. I didn't say anything. I just waited quietly for him to continue. Francis said, "I knew you'd follow Jack to the city, so I came the year after Jack did. I've been watching you all this time." He pointed out the window, "From right over there, watching you." Then he lowered his hand and looked at me. "Calliope, when you were in love with Jack, I was silently in love with you. I've loved you for so many years." Chapter 5. Francis wasn't joking, he was serious. Even though I wasn't as glamorous or outgoing as Margarita, I never lacked admirers, and turning them down had always been easy for me. But facing Francis, I didn't know what to say, because suddenly, so many memories long buried in my mind resurfaced. I hadn't been a very good student back in school. Watching Jack get accepted into a top university while I was left behind filled me with anxiety. A once simple and happy life suddenly became full of pressure. I crammed every day and night, but my scores didn't budge. Francis said he wanted to experience the hardships of common folk and chose to support himself through college by tutoring. With a touch of pride and distance, he offered to practice by tutoring me. Francis tutored me through my most stressful year of high school. Even after I got into college, he would stick to my after-class schedule and video call me regularly to explain problems remotely. On the other side of the screen, he'd scold me, asking how I could be so dumb, but he never gave up on me. Before every mock exam, he'd make me turn on the camera and place the phone to the side. Then he'd say, "If you don't understand something, ask me." In those countless lonely nights when I was chasing after Jack from afar, the only things that accompanied me were the rustling sound of pen on paper, and the calm, handsome face of Francis glowing from my screen. During the 2 most relaxed years of college life, Francis stayed up late with me almost every night. After the college entrance exams, he helped me calculate my projected scores, and for the first time, he gently said, "Calliope, you did amazing." I stared at him for a long time and asked, "Do you like me, even a little?" Francis heard me, then the screen froze. He hung up the call and never called back. I typed to him, "I'm going to confess to Jack." Francis replied, "I hope it works out for you." From that moment on, the boy who used to tease me and call me an idiot while sending me running toward Jack vanished from my world. But in reality, he never truly disappeared. Francis coughed, breaking my train of thought. "Let's eat." I let out a quiet mem. The air grew awkward and strange, but the tips of Francis's ears looked like they'd been dyed red by the sunset, or maybe not by the sunset at all. That awkwardness suddenly dissolved. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Francis looked at me and smiled too. After dinner, Francis walked me back to school. At the dorm building entrance, he tugged at the edge of my jacket. His voice was soft. "I meant it when I said I liked you. If it's okay with you, can I pursue you?" I looked at him and nodded, because the sky had already turned dark. But the tips of Francis's ears were still flushed red, not from the sun, but from shyness. Somehow, I felt shy too. I said in a small voice, "Can you not scold me while you're pursuing me? And speak more gently?" Francis, super gentle. "Okay? Okay." That shyness followed me all the way back to the dorm. After I washed up, a WeChat message came in from Jack. He asked if I was back in the dorm. I scrolled up through our chat history. Most of it was me sharing random bits of my day. Jack's replies were short and dry. "Oh, okay, got it." Those dull little phrases, I used to memorize them like they were precious. This was one of the very rare times Jack had messaged me first. I turned off the screen and didn't reply. Before going to sleep, I glanced at Margarita's bed, the blanket neatly fluffed. She hadn't come back. The next morning, just as I finished getting ready and was sitting at my desk, the dorm door opened. Margarita had returned. She had no makeup on, and her face looked tired. "I'm officially with Jack now," I said. "Congratulations." Then I looked into the mirror at my reflection, calm eyebrows, quiet eyes, not a ripple in sight. Just a few days ago, just watching Jack hold Margarita's hand was enough to twist my heart in knots. But even though I had sensed last night what might have happened between them, my heart felt only a dull ache, no other emotions. I drank a cup of milk on Francis's advice and slept peacefully, dreamless. Margarita walked behind me. Through the mirror, I saw an odd expression flash across her face, complicated and hard to read. "Calliope, are you and Francis going to be together?" I thought for a moment, turned to meet her gaze, and smiled. "Maybe." The complexity in her eyes faded, replaced by a sudden, visible relief. I changed clothes and went downstairs, only to see Jack standing outside the dorm. In these past months since he started dating Margarita, I'd often run into him like this. Like always, I gave a small nod and tried to walk past him. But unlike usual, Jack didn't nod back and let me leave. Instead, he grabbed my wrist. "Why didn't you reply to my message last night?" Chapter 6. Does it really matter to you whether I reply or not? I looked at him, genuinely puzzled. Jack opened and closed his mouth for a moment before finally asking, "Are you with him?" I shook my head. "No." Jack clearly let out a breath of relief. My brow twitched slightly. It seemed Jack cared whether I was with Francis. But I let out a soft sigh. "Margarita's not feeling well. You should go buy her some breakfast." Jack let go of my wrist. Before leaving, he said, "Don't ignore my messages next time." Without turning around, he walked off. I watched his back, and strangely, that tight feeling in my chest slowly faded away. I didn't say anything else. As I was about to leave, I suddenly saw a man leaning against the tree behind the dorm building. Francis. I walked over and peeked my face around the other side of the tree. "Were you waiting for me?" Francis curled his lips and muttered super softly. "Who said I was waiting for you?" Then he pulled 2 bags from his pocket and pushed them toward me. "Your favorite crab roe buns and unsweetened soy milk. I kept them warm this whole time. They're still hot." I took them, feeling an inexplicable warmth fill my chest. I gave Francis a sweet smile. Just like before, the tips of his ears turned red again. His hand lifted and dropped a few times, and finally landed gently on my head. He ruffled my hair softly and said, "Eat up." I brought Francis to the small park on our campus. He took off his jacket and laid it on the ground for me to sit on, then sat down beside me. I ate quietly. Then I noticed Francis looking at me. His throat moved. "Don't move." I froze. Francis's warm fingers reached out to the corner of my lips, lightly brushing it. He murmured, "Idiot." He always liked to call me that. Back then, I'd always jump up and argue, "You're the idiot." But now, my face flushed silently, looking at his focused and gentle gaze. My heart skipped a few beats. Francis withdrew his hand. "Go on. Keep eating." I took small bites and finished my meal, then strolled around campus with Francis. It felt like he was even more familiar with my university than I was. He knew where the announcement board was, mentioned my sharp-tongued but fiercely loyal professor, and talked about the weird pineapple stir-fried pork in our cafeteria. I unconsciously slowed my steps as I followed him. Francis warned, "Don't eat those trendy viral dishes. Your stomach's sensitive, you'll get sick." Noticing I had stopped walking, Francis paused too and turned to look at me. "What's wrong?" In that moment, Francis overlapped perfectly with the boy who used to yank my backpack years ago. "When you used to pull my backpack, was it because you thought it was heavy and wanted to help carry it?" Francis looked at me and gently replied, I took a step closer. "When you unfolded the little paper hearts I made and turned them into frogs, was it because you were jealous?" Again, Francis gently responded, And when you pulled my braids, was it just to make me talk to you?" Why do you like me?" I stood in front of him, looking up. Francis furrowed his brow slightly and bent down to meet my eyes. "Why wouldn't I? You're amazing." His reply was tender, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And in that moment, it began to undo all the years of silent, unrequited love that had pushed me deeper and deeper into self-doubt and invisibility. Francis said seriously, "Calliope, you're kind. You study hard. You're confident, brave, and radiant. When you smile, you're like a little sun. Everyone should love you. Why wouldn't I?" So, this is how Francis sees me? Confident, brave, radiant, a little sun when I smile. I touched my face. After all those years of chasing Jack and getting nothing in return, I'd forgotten I was once confident and brave too. I smiled, and carefully reached out a hand toward Francis. "So, maybe we could try dating?" Francis's peach blossom eyes widened for a moment. He looked at me, stunned. "Calliope, you're too easy to win over. Someone might take advantage of you. Would you take advantage of me?" "Never." Francis's eyes curved into a smile, like flowers blooming in March. He raised his hand and, instead of ruffling my hair again, he gently took my hand and said, "I'd never hurt you. Not ever." I smiled back at him, just as brightly. And so, Francis and I started dating. Margarita was moving out of the dorm. She said Jack wanted her to move in with him. As she left, I waved at her and smiled sincerely. "I wish you happiness." Margarita's expression was complicated. "Calliope, can you do me a favor?" "What is it?" "Don't tell Jack you're dating Francis." I froze for a second, then I just smiled and said nothing. After Margarita moved out, Jack messaged me a few times, arrogantly asking me out for dinner or to go hiking with him. I didn't reply. Later, he messaged in a softer tone, asking what I was doing. I blocked him. That night, Francis and I came back from a movie. My feet hurt on the way back. Francis nagged, "Don't wear heels anymore, but heels look good." Saying that, I climbed onto his back, hugging his neck. I softly chatted with him about the characters in the movie. At the dorm entrance, Francis gently put me down, smoothed my messy hair, and bent over with one hand on his knee. In the softest voice, he whispered, "You look good even without heels." I realized, when Francis speaks to me in that ultra-soft voice, I seriously can't handle it, especially when his eyes are full of unmistakable, overwhelming affection. It's impossible to ignore. I pressed my lips together and took a small step forward, then gently kissed him. Just a light kiss, because his lips looked so nice, but it was like a spark that set everything ablaze. Francis wrapped an arm around my waist and deepened the kiss, his breath hot and fast. And just then, I saw Jack standing behind Francis, his face dark and stormy. Chapter 7. Francis noticed I was distracted and followed my gaze toward Jack. After a moment, he let go of my hand and stepped in front of me. "Francis, you can go ahead." Francis turned his head slightly to look at me. "Will you be okay by yourself?" I looked up and gave him a smile. "I'll be fine." Francis left, but he didn't go far. He stood where I could still see him, hands in his pockets, silently watching over me. For some reason, it made me feel very safe. I shifted my gaze to Jack, who was walking toward me. His eyes were full of anger. "Didn't you say you weren't with Francis? When you asked." "We weren't," I said calmly, "but now we are. It's been a month." Jack took a deep breath. "Break up with him." I'd always been obedient when it came to Jack. If he said go east, I never dared turn west. I was always afraid of upsetting him, of making him dislike me more, of making the distance I had to chase after him even longer. But now, I shook my head. No, I didn't know what expression I had at that moment, but I knew it must have been firm. "I won't break up with Francis." Then I took a half step back, my tone distant and cold. "Goodbye." I had planned to walk over to Francis, but seeing that Jack was still standing there, I simply waved at Francis from a distance and returned to my dorm. The next day, my roommate told me that Margarita had asked her if there were any empty beds left in our dorm. It was obvious something had happened between her and Jack. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent Francis a message. "What are you up to?" "Francis, busy. Are we still hiking this weekend?" "Francis, you get the day off. Sleep in." I smiled and replied, "Okay." Margarita moved back in. The sweet, sticky phone calls with Jack stopped. The cloying affection that used to overflow like a flood had suddenly receded. On the surface, Margarita acted calm and unfazed. But more than once, I heard her quietly crying at night. I had a rough idea why. Because Jack kept calling me. When his number couldn't get through, he used an unknown number. After some thought, I removed Jack from my block list and called him back. Jack said, "Calliope, you finally answered my call." His voice was cautious, with a trace of grievance, but I felt disoriented for a moment. I had said those very words to him so many times before. So many times, carefully, helplessly, with pain, like all my pride and dignity had been scraped out of my bones and crushed into dust, leaving behind only desperation. I looked into the mirror on my desk. Back then, my roommates often asked if something was bothering me. It wasn't anything complicated, just that the person I had loved for years never loved me back, no matter how small and humble I made myself. But now, I touched my face, now flushed and smiling. That broken dignity had been picked up, piece by piece, by Francis. He had pieced me back together into the brave, radiant, and confident girl I once was. I said, "Jack, I really did like you for a very, very long time." Jack's breathing was heavy. "I know." I sighed lightly. He really did know. Not just him, everyone around us knew. So what was this attitude now? When I liked him, he didn't like me. Now that I'm with Francis, he says pitifully, "You finally answered my call." As if, over the course of more than a decade, our roles had reversed, and the whole situation felt absurd and laughable. I let out a breath. "But I don't like you anymore, Jack. I'm in a relationship now, and so are you. We should both cherish the people we're with." Jack went silent for a long time, so long that I thought he might hang up. But then he spoke, in a condescending and patronizing tone, like he was granting me a favor. "Calliope, you're only with him to get back at me." Jack cut me off. "Fine. You win. I'll break up with Margarita and be with you. Is that what you want?" Chapter 8. After Jack finished speaking, he hung up the phone on his own. I didn't hesitate to block him again. It wasn't because of what he said. It was because I suddenly realized how lowly I must have once been. For him to believe I would sacrifice my own relationship just to pressure him into being with me. That evening, I got a call from Francis. I rushed downstairs and came to a stop in front of him. After graduating, Francis had stayed in this city. During our dates, I'd often hear his assistant calling him. He was really busy, way busier than Jack had ever claimed to be. And yet, while dating Margarita, Jack's phone was always quiet, saying he was too busy. But Francis and I still managed to see each other almost every day or two. This was the first time we'd gone 5 whole days without meeting in person, only talking online. To be honest, I missed him a little. I suppressed the urge to hug him and looked up with a pouty smile. "Are you done working?" Francis looked down at me and suddenly flicked my forehead. "Don't act cute with me." I froze for a second, then gave up on holding back and moved forward, trying to hug him. Francis said, "Don't hug me either. What's wrong? Otherwise I won't be able to let go," Francis said, raising his hand and gently tracing from my temple down to the curve of my lips. "Calliope, I like you very much. But more than that, I want you to get what you've always wished for." Francis took a step back. "Jack called me. He said he broke up with Margarita and is ready to be with you. You'll get married. Have kids." Francis's eyes were red. "Calliope, your wish all these years is coming true. Congratulations." I stared at him in a daze. Just as he turned to leave, I grabbed his wrist. "Are you breaking up with me?" Francis didn't say anything. Suddenly, my wrist was yanked forcefully away. Jack stood in front of me, glaring coldly at Francis. "Get lost." His voice was icy, full of hostility, arrogant, and utterly sure of himself. In my memory, Francis had always been more proud than Jack. He was handsome, tall, and though proud, he was polite, well-mannered, an excellent student, the classic perfect kid parents loved to mention. But now, I realized, in this long one-sided love story, it wasn't just me who had been insecure around Jack. Francis had felt that same insecurity too, not because he lacked anything himself, but because of how fiercely, how brightly I had once chased after Jack. It was blinding, unavoidable. So even someone as proud as Francis took 2 steps back in the face of Jack's entitlement. Gone was the lazy yet dignified version of him I used to know. When Francis truly turned to leave, I brushed past Jack and ran after him, but my wrist was grabbed again. Jack pulled me back toward him and shouted at Francis, "You said you'd never hurt her." Francis stopped walking. I said, "You said you liked me, but maybe I never told you." Jack cut in. "Calliope, think carefully before you speak." I turned to him, yanked my arm free, and stood in front of Francis, both to protect and to hold on to him. "You've said enough." Maybe it was the coldness in my eyes that finally stung Jack. His chest rose and fell rapidly, and he roared, "Calliope, are you seriously giving me up for him?" Francis suddenly spoke up. "Jack, lower your voice." Calliope gets scared easily. My heart, which had been racing, abruptly calmed down. I took a step back, not away, but to stand right in front of Francis, and tightly held his hand behind me. I looked at Jack. "I'm not giving you up for him, I'm doing it for me. Jack, I really hated the me who loved you, but I really love the me who loves him. Jack, that long chapter of me loving you is over." Chapter 9. I pulled Francis with me, all the way to the park on campus. Just as I was about to let go of his hand, he suddenly turned me around. His eyes were red. "Calliope, say it again." "Say what?" "Say that you love the version of yourself who loves me," Francis asked softly, almost pleading. "Say it again." I smiled, stood on tiptoe, and gently kissed him. "I love you." Francis lowered his head and inhaled like a little animal catching my scent. With tenderness and deep affection, he said, "I love you too, so much. So, you didn't come see me for 5 days because you wanted me to have a chance to fulfill my wish?" No way." Francis denied it immediately, hugging me tightly and muttering, "You told me you liked me. Even if the king of the world showed up, I still wouldn't let go of your hand." I gave him a sweet smile. Margarita and Jack broke up. My roommate told me that Margarita had cried hard in the dorm when I wasn't around, then moved into another room. I didn't pay much attention. I calmly continued dating Francis, studying, but there was something bothering me. Jack had started blocking my path. When he couldn't get through by phone, he began waiting downstairs at the dorm every few days. I avoided him, but he kept appearing around me like a shadow I couldn't shake. No matter where I went, I always saw glimpses of him, silent, cautious, quietly watching me like he was waiting. Gone was that version of Jack who was always too busy. Then I noticed Francis was getting anxious. On our dates, he would shyly tell me he liked me, as if he was afraid I'd waver because of Jack's sudden change, clumsily trying to remind me of his presence. That night, as he walked me back to the dorm, I asked, "You know, right, that Jack's been showing up?" Francis gave a low hum. "I remember you said you rented an apartment near campus." Francis froze. Can I move in? I asked, a little shy, but still brave. That way we can spend more time together. Francis pressed his lips together, then let out a snort of laughter and said in a mock-serious tone, I guess it's not impossible. I tugged on his hand and pouted. So is it a yes or no? Kiss me and I'll reluctantly say yes. Even as a kid, I'd noticed Francis was a little tsundere, proud but adorable. I stood on tiptoe and kissed his cheek. Then come pick me up tomorrow. Though I said tomorrow, Francis seemed too impatient to wait even one more day. He urged, let's move you in tonight. Then, with a cough, he quickly added, my place has 2 bedrooms. You take the master. I'll sleep in the guest room. I looked into his nervous eyes and suddenly felt a pang of affection. I nodded. Francis waited for me downstairs. When I came down with my suitcase, I saw Jack. The 2 of them stood on opposite sides. When Jack saw my luggage, he took 2 steps forward as if to take it from me, but I had already passed him and walked to Francis. I pouted. It's heavy. Francis took the suitcase from me and grabbed my hand with the other. I could feel the sweat in his palm. He was nervous. Thinking for a second, I lifted his hand and kissed the back of it, then led him forward. Behind us, Jack shouted, Calliope! His voice was sharp and full of pain. I paused and turned to look at him. Jack's eyes were full of regret, of panic and unease. He spoke carefully. Calliope, I came back for you. I've come back. I didn't say anything. Jack's voice was choked. Just one more time, okay? Just wait for me one last time. His hand trembled as he raised a single finger. He looked utterly defeated, as if he had crumbled into dust. Just one last time. Chapter 10. Looking at Jack like this, I suddenly felt a little sad. He looked so much like the old me, only I had been too lowly to even beg like he was doing now. In the end, I heard myself say, there's no last time anymore. Jack, some people aren't going to stand in the same place forever, waiting for you to turn around. I held Francis's hand and walked away without looking back. Francis and I moved in together, but it wasn't cohabitation in the traditional sense. We each slept in our own rooms. Francis was like a dad, nagging me to eat more, binge watch less, and go to bed earlier. But he wasn't a stubborn dad. As long as I acted a little cute, just said the word, he'd give in immediately. He'd sit on the couch with me, feed me fruit while we watched shows. And when it was bedtime, he'd press my head against his chest and let me fall asleep to the sound of his heartbeat and the TV. I'm actually not dumb. Thanks to the study habits he helped me develop in high school, I was top of my class in college. But Francis always thought I was dumb. Like if he didn't watch me, I'd forget to eat. If he didn't hold my hand, I'd get lost. I didn't argue. I followed him sweetly to his studio, met his friends, and accepted their teasingly affectionate sister-in-law greetings. Every time someone called me that and I didn't correct them, Francis's palms would start to sweat, and his eyes would fill with heat and joy. I'd lift his hand, kiss it softly, and smile at him. One night, thunder woke me up, half asleep. I saw the door creak open as Francis quietly walked in and crouched beside my bed. I turned my head toward him. Francis whispered in his super soft voice, Calliope, do you really love me? In that instant, a wave of heartache and regret surged through me. The truth is, I had a secret. On the long road of chasing Jack, I had wavered once. Because of Francis. After he helped me estimate my exam score and told me I'd done great, I asked him, do you like me, maybe just a little? Francis didn't answer, too timid. I hinted, I'm going to confess to Jack. Francis said, I hope it works out for you. And just like that, I couldn't waver anymore, because I had used up all my courage on Jack. I ache for how Francis had to watch me love someone else for so many years. I regret not being braver back then. I shouldn't have asked, do you maybe like me? I should have said, I think I might like you, could you like me too? That was my mistake, not his. But I couldn't say that out loud, because Francis would blame himself. So I lifted the blanket and said bravely, do you want to sleep with me tonight? Francis stared at me in shock. In the 6 months we'd been dating, I had seen how sharp and decisive he was at work, so it hurt more to see how careful he was with me. I really, truly hurt for him. I love you. Come sleep with me. Francis, Calliope. I love you. After college, my parents wanted me to move back home and work. Francis handed over his company in the city to a partner and came back home with me. I got a job. He started a branch company. Before I had the chance to tell my parents about our relationship, they already knew and fully supported it. Francis's parents liked me even more. They called every few days, always calling me sweetie this and darling that. Then they secretly told me they had asked Francis when he was going to propose. Francis told them he didn't want to get married so soon, that he wanted to wait. But that wasn't the truth. After we moved back, I stayed with my parents. Francis wasn't used to it. He often snuck to my window in the middle of the night, knocking and whispering through the bars, saying he couldn't sleep without me. When we went on dates, had dinner, watched movies or hiked, he'd always subtly try to sell me on the benefits of marrying early, starting a family young. But it seemed like he was scared I'd say no, so he never brought it up directly before I did. I wanted to laugh. But more than that, I felt happy. As we grew older, Francis became colder and more mature in public, but that cautious gentleness with me never changed. I quietly handed him an olive branch. I drew him a little picture, a cartoon heart of me in a wedding dress and him in a tuxedo, standing in a church getting married. To Francis, it was a treasure. The next day, he showed up at my house with both sets of parents and a group of our childhood friends to propose. It was grand and solemn. Francis and I are getting married. As tradition goes, we invited our old classmates to the wedding. A week before the ceremony, Margarita came to see me. She was still as beautiful and confident as ever, but there was something complicated in her eyes as she looked at me. Calliope, do you know why I used to flaunt my relationship with Jack in front of you? After I told Jack that there wouldn't be a last time, he vanished from my world. But the texts kept coming, still blocked, but never stopping. He started sharing bits of his daily life with me, just like I used to do with him. And then he typed my name, Calliope. I'm sorry, but I wasn't interested. Every month, I just cleared my block list on schedule. Up to now, I haven't seen Jack once. I thought hearing his name again would stir something in me. But I was too busy. I didn't even look up. Why? Because I once joked that I liked flaunting our love in front of you. And Jack snapped at me for the first time. He said not to show off in front of Calliope. I asked why. And he said, no reason. That gathering with your childhood friends? I forced him to invite you. We'd been together for so long and he never introduced me to anyone who knew both of you. I made him a deal, make us public. And I'll stop showing off in front of Calliope. He agreed. I asked you not to tell him you and Francis were dating, because I knew. His phone was full of photos of the romantic things you did for him growing up. He didn't even realize he liked you, he just needed the right moment to figure it out. And when you left and chose someone else, that was the moment. Calliope. Jack really loves you. He's been waiting for you, just like you used to wait for him. Could you not get married? Could you go back to him? I didn't reply right away. Margarita asked, what are you doing? I lifted my hands from under the table and said sheepishly, Francis and I are getting married in a week, so I'm working on a romantic surprise for him. I held up what I'd been folding, 1,314 paper hearts. I'm afraid I won't finish in time, so I've been folding whenever I get a moment. Sorry. I know it's a bit rude. Then I looked down and kept folding. Francis had taken wedding leave and was practically glued to me 18 hours a day. It was rare to have some time to myself, and I wanted to use that time to finish these hearts for the man who loves it when I surprise him with romance.